So, a little over a year ago, I had a little bit of cash. I had just gotten a decent tax return back, and I wanted to do something investment wise with that money that would have a large impact for its small size. I live in a region of central Colorado that homeownership for a guy like me, even with a decent income like I have, is almost unattainable. The average houses in the town I work are upwards of $900,000. Now, I make decent wages for a blue collared worker, but I couldn't qualify for that mortgage. I couldn't even come close to qualifying for that mortgage as a single person. I ended up finding 5 acres of vacant land in a high desert area in a really cool spot for $10,000. So for $2,000 an acre. I put a 20% down payment on that and financed the remaining $8,000 for a 2-year loan. In this particular spot, the zoning laws are very lax. Essentially, I can build a 200 square foot structure without any inspection necessary. I can build my own outhouse with a hybrid compostable toilet system. So essentially, my plan is to build this 200 square foot cabin on this property that I own. I'm either going to sell it later and use a profit from that to keep investing in these micro properties like this, or I'm just going to hold on to it and pass it on to my kids. Either way, it was a small investment that I was able to make to give myself land that I actually own and a getaway cabin that I can go to anytime I want. For my financial situation, this was the best thing I could do, I think. One of the biggest appeals of this project for me is that I am a project manager for a large construction company here in the valley. So building this cabin would be relatively easy for me. Not only do I have almost a decade of experience in this field, but my boss has saved so much material over the years that I was able to recycle and use on my property. And let's be real, every guy dreams of having their own remote vacant land where they can build their own little getaway on. So this is the first time we visited our vacant land that we just bought here. The first step is to get the perimeters of our little cottage, make sure they're square, and I'll show you guys how to do that with a construction calculator. I put the stakes in 4 corners at 20 feet by 10 feet. And I put these roughly where they were supposed to go. How to find square, you want to find the diagonal. So this is 20 feet long, so I press 20 feet length, 10 feet width, and then you press width again, twice and that's the diagonal number is 22 feet 4 and 5/16 inches. So that's what this number should be in order for it to be square. It's what this diagonal number should be. And so I did that. I checked that multiple times with my tape, and I just moved these concrete stakes until they were in the right spot. Of course, the final step is string line. I ended up putting multiple supports in the corners here. How I made those, if this is a side view, so here's the ground. There's some grass. This is the dirt right here. I dug a little hole in there, And then I filled all of that with gravel. And then I put those kind of concrete deck posts on top, and they were actually underground a little bit. This isn't very an accurate drawing. And I just packed that down, and then I put 2 posts up here, and that's where the entire, all the rim joists were around there. That's where I attached them to. And I did a little, I later added a 90-degree angle there and added some lag bolts to make that pretty solid. This is not my final step for anchoring it. And I'll show you later on what I did, but this is kind of just a very simple, it's not very strong. This is kind of a support you would do for like a shed, not really a living structure, but I'll show you guys later the other supports I made, which were actually buried underground. But for now, this is how I started. So right here, I'm digging the little holes where I'm going to put the gravel and then put these little concrete piers on them. Now I'm attaching the outer rim joist that the floor joists are going to be attached to. I'm using a laser here to make sure everything is level. Making sure the posts are plumb as well by using a small level. This is the middle of the structure. Joist holding it all together.
Liza, is it cool?
I'm just finishing the complete outer layer of the entire 20-foot by 10-foot structure. Using the laser once again to make sure all of this is 100% plumb. And finishing fastening it with lag bolts. How I laid this out is I made this box 15 feet by 10 feet, and this part I made 5 feet, and this was the deck I wanted. So how I laid these floor joists out is in the main floor, I ran them this way, standard. I made them 2 foot on centers. So I ended up making 6 of these joists in the middle, then doubled up this joist. It's like acts as like a ledger board for the deck joist. And then I actually ended up even doubling up a couple more joists around the support post in there to give it a little extra strength. And then these joists I ran this way, 2 foot on center. So I started out finding the center, putting 2 foot on the center there, consistently 2 foot outwards, and then this one's a little less than 2 feet, obviously. So that's how I laid that out. Right here, I'm laying the floor joist out at 2 foot on center layout. I'm laying out where the hangers are going to go. Here I'm using these little Simpson hangers for the joist. The joist and the rim board are all treated 2x8 material. Setting the floor joist now.
What you doing, Liza?
Now I'm gluing these joists because this is where the deck's going to be, so people are going to be standing on this, and you have to glue it in order to avoid squeaking when people step on it. Basically, in these spots, I buried 4x4 treated post 3 to 4 feet underground and then packed around it with more gravel, so it should be pretty solid. And the goal here is to stick a 4-foot treated piece of 4x4 in there and then pack it down with gravel around it, to act as both a pier but also to prevent that northwestern wind from picking up the structure, because it's only going to have one slope roof, so it'll be easier to pick up wind if it's not anchored down correctly. My fellow builders are gonna roast me for this, but basically I just came back and whatever extra material I had, I just used as extra bracing. I added all new points of contact. I buried 6 of these posts 3 feet underground, packed them with gravel. Yeah, there's just multiple points of contact, way more than what research online was telling me to do, but this soil is real finicky. I just want to be double sure. Just doubled up the edges of the rim board. Now that I'm finished with that, I'm going to finish setting the deck boards. I wasn't able to film the process of insulating between the floor joists because I ran out of daylight and I wanted to quickly get it done at night. So I fastened this thick plastic sheet underneath the floor system and then put insulation batten strips between this, and then obviously covered the entire thing up with sheets of plywood, 5/8 sheets of plywood. All right, guys, this is part 1 of what's going to be a multi-part series of me building this off-grid cabin in the high desert. Thanks for watching.